What's up, basketball fans? Welcome to the Verdad Report. It's time to talk about the Toronto Raptors because it is being reported by Jake Fisher. Raptors expressed interest in Bulls restricted free agent guard Ayo Dosunmnu. Now, this is obviously someone I really like, but one thing we do need to keep in mind is if the Raptors do sign him to an offer sheet, the Chicago Bulls do have the option of matching any offer that comes their way. So I'm going to be talking about Ayo. I'm going to be talking about his game a little bit. I'm going to talk about some of the money potentially the Raptors could throw, and if there's a potential sign and trade available in which the Raptors could send the Bulls something in order to get Ayo on the roster. So if you're ready to watch this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you wish to hit the subscribe button as well, that would be very much appreciated. So with that being said, let's get right into today's video. Now, as you guys know, I do like to give out shout outs on my channel, and the shout out for today's video goes out to Darshan Seva. So Darshan, thank you so much for supporting this channel through likes and comments. It is very much appreciated. Now, let's quickly show you the statistics of Ayo because the statistics, I don't feel like they really do justice to how good of a player he is, but still, it's important to give you a little bit of a background. I know a lot of people like statistics, and just to kind of tell you which area he needs improvement in and which areas he's good at. Now, taking a look at Ayo's stats this past season with the Chicago Bulls, in his second season with the Bulls, he averaged 8.6 points, 2.6 assists, 2.8 rebounds. His free throw percentage took a little bit of a spike from 67% in his first season to 80% this past season, although he still averaged the same amount of free throw attempts per game. But one area that really took a dip in Ayo's game was his three-point shooting. His first season, he shot 37% from the three-point line on 2.4 attempts, and his second season, he shot just as many threes, but he shot 31%. Now, is that an area of concern? Possibly, but I will talk about some of the variables that can be affecting a young player's game. We know that better than anyone as Raptors fans. We see sometimes, when the guys aren't necessarily getting minutes. We saw what Nick Nurse did with some of the young guys. I'm not saying that's the case with Ayo, but even going through some of his other statistics as well, his field goal percentage took a 3% dip, but it's still very good, 49.3%. Now, it is important to note that Ayo is a 6'5" guard, only 23 years old, and he weighs around 200 pounds, which gives you really good size for the guard position. Now, I do want to see, I see him more of a point guard rather than a shooting guard. I know he's listed as a guard, a combo guard, you could argue, but I really think his playmaking ability is excellent for a shooting guard. So I really think if the Raptors were to acquire him, you can play him at the point guard position. But in terms of his game, we do have to talk about that because that is so important, and I don't think the numbers do justice here. Now, I do want to mention one thing. I think it's important to note that Ayo did play with Pat Bev and Kobe White as well, and we know they had two ball handlers in Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan as well. So I think it's important to realize that young players don't necessarily always get the ball handling duties, and it's understandable. Those other guys in DeMar and Zach are much better, but I just don't think he's given a fair chance. Again, it's not the same situation as a Nick Nurse, where Nick Nurse would yank some of the young guys and just not play them for several games. I don't think that's the case with Ayo, but it is a sophomore slump. They have that saying for a reason. But in terms of Ayo, what he would bring to the Raptors, high IQ basketball. When you talk about on both ends of the floor, he makes some amazing passes. And like I said, this is why I see him as a point guard, because when you take a look at some of his highlights, he has the opportunity to play and, get in some easy buckets, but he's setting up big men, he's setting up his teammates, and that is something the Raptors need. They need unselfish basketball. We saw what happened this past season. So we need players like Ayo, but even on the defensive side, not only is he amazing with his 6'5" size, but he reads the passes so well. He intercepts the passes, and those are the kind of point guards you absolutely want on the Raptors that, obviously need a lot more shooting, yes, but they also need defense. It never hurts to have good defenders, especially at the point guard position as well. So I think having him there, he gets a lot of steals. He reads the passes really well, intercepts them, and even on transition, he's always making wonderful passes that you don't necessarily expect. So I has a great potential. Again, he has a really good potential to be a good two-way player. He would bring so much to the Raptors, and they would put him in a system where it gives him an opportunity to really thrive. Now, I say this because the Chicago Bulls re-signed Kobe White, and they also did sign Javon Carter as well, who's a point guard. So you've really got a question, how are they going to develop a 23-year-old when the minutes aren't necessarily there? So it's going to be an interesting thing to see what the Chicago Bulls do in terms of money-wise. Now, this is going to be the fun part because how much money can you throw at someone like an Ayo? We know the Raptors don't have unlimited cap space. They did throw the mid-level exception at Dennis Schroeder at about $13 million for 2 years, and they did sign Jalen McDaniels to about $4 million for 2 seasons. So it doesn't leave the Raptors with a lot of wiggle room in terms of how much money they can throw at him. So it's not a case where you could just throw $15 million to kind of maybe entice the someone like Ayo to not only sign an offer sheet, but also to maybe turn off the Chicago Bulls from not re-signing him. But I will say, in terms of, the Raptors, I don't necessarily think they're going to throw big money at him. But I do think the Chicago Bulls would sign any offer sheet. They do like Ayo quite a bit. And the Raptors just I don't think they have the money. They definitely don't have the money, but I think it would have to be a sign and trade situation with the Chicago Bulls. Now, in terms of what they could give up, it's really tough to say, guys, because we know the Raptors, lost a lot of, guys like Banton. They lost Fred VanVleet as well. So they don't necessarily have a great, and I wouldn't say they don't have a great asset, which they could send to the Chicago Bulls. I just don't think it makes sense for the Raptors to maybe, send someone. I'm thinking on top of my head of what the Bulls would want in a return for someone like an Ayo. I don't think the Raptors would send Precious Achiuwa. They would definitely send Chris Boucher, but I don't see the Bulls accepting that. So it's very difficult when we talk about signing restricted free agents, because it is so likely, especially with young guys like Ayo that have so much potential on both ends of the floor. It's just not realistic. So realistically, I would love Ayo on the Raptors. I just don't see it for that reason. Again, it doesn't make sense for the Bulls to let him go. And even in a sign and trade situation, like, you really see the Raptors giving up someone like a Precious, Christian Koloko, or, some of the other assets as well. I just don't see the Raptors giving up anything valuable in terms of that, or even picks, right? So it's really hard to make sign and trade deals like that. So ultimately, I don't see the Raptors trying to pursue this, because realistically, they probably know that it's not going to happen. The Chicago Bulls would match any offer, but I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts on this? We do have Dennis Schroeder on our as our point guard, but we obviously need maybe another point guard. I know the faith in Malachi Flynn isn't high, but it's very interesting to see what the Raptors will do in the remaining free agents and how they'll fill out the rest of the roster. So make sure to leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And I do not have a trivia question for you today. So if you'd like a shout out, just let me know in the comment section below. I'll give you a shout out for my next video. So that will be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.